Does an Enderman wearing a carved pumpkin never get angry? Can a skeleton's bow break? And these are 47 more Minecraft mob myths tested to see if they work. What would happen if we have a Warden and get it to do the sonic boom against an Enderman? Well, we'll see. It's definitely getting angry like it's gonna hit it, but does it count as a projectile or does it count as some other kind of thing? Oh, here we go. And it does! Look at that! This next myth is that you can use a charged creeper to get a wither skeleton skull. Now, a charged creeper exploding is how you get other player heads. So let's see, will this explode to get this guy? All right, so I take my flint and steel, I light off the guy, step back, and look at that. 100% chance of getting yourself a wither skeleton skull. That myth is confirmed. So normally with a creeper, we can place a block in between us to negate all the damage. This myth says that when you place a block between you and a charged creeper, it'll explode like a normal creeper. Well, let's see. So, light it off, place a block. Oh, I mean, just by the looks of that, yes. But I just closed that gate and I was completely safe. Let's try that again. Without the gate, sure enough. So just by having a block there, or even just something as simple as a trap door gate that you're flipping, I was completely fine. Only half a heart from a charged creeper. That's insane. All right, myth confirmed. When a skeleton kills a creeper and it drops a disc, that creeper has a chance of dropping every single music disc. We'll get our setup here. We got the skeleton shooting the snow golem, and then if we just put a creeper in there to die, it'll drop a lot of the discs, but is it going to drop all of the ones that we can see? Now, if we go into the discs here, I think what we could very well say is that this isn't possible, because obviously some of these music discs, this needs to happen from killing a Ghast, and this needs to happen from killing a chicken jockey, so that at least rules out those two. And then disc 5 can only come from the disc fragments found in ancient cities, pig step from the bastion remnants, and relic is going to come from the trail ruins. We got a lot of music discs, but not all of them. So myth busted. This one says that we can ride a regular Ghast using a boat. Let me see. If I go and take a boat and then ride it into place, will I land on top of the Ghast? Hey, sure enough. So because they stack like different entities, I can technically ride this Ghast. Now, what I'd be curious to see, since this is a no AI Ghast, is what if I were to take a real Ghast and tick freeze and then do it that way? Whoa, careful, it's slippery. And now tick unfreeze. Oh, it does not move with the Ghast. So you can ride on top of it, you just can't ride very far. So myth true, but myth not as true as we would hope it to be. This one says that if you were to have the blindness potion, then there's no way to stop the creaking. Now, obviously, normally if I had a creaking here, I would just look at it and stop it this way. But if I drink this suspicious 2 to get blindness, does that still count against the creaking? Well, it's not moving right now, at least as far as I can tell, and my blindness is already gone. So by the looks of it, it will stop even if I have the blindness effect. Yep, sure enough, the blindness works. Even if I step out of the blindness range, it does work. It doesn't check at all for the potion effects. And for the sake of testing, we could also try this with darkness. Even though that just gives me a different way that it renders on the client side, it doesn't actually change my behavior with the creaking. If I take a carved pumpkin and I put this on, oh, look at that. So the carved pumpkin does stop the interaction. The myth that we have here is that Shulkers will take more damage from a pickaxe than from a sword. Well, we can see this by the amount of hearts that they list over their head. So that was 2 there, but about 5 there for my sword. Obviously, they take more damage from the sword than they do the pickaxe, which is a shame. I think that would be a fun way to justify using your pickaxe as a weapon. So a common thing I've heard before is that husks are able to drop sand when you kill them. Well, we got a lot of husks here. Let's see if they drop any sand for us. The truth is that no matter how many of these husks I'm killing, no sand from that one. The only thing that you're gonna find in a husk's loot table is the same stuff that you would find from a zombies. There's no difference. But this myth might exist because in a lot of different packs that you play on, including Skyblock, it is coded so that you could kill husks to get a renewable form of sand. But that's not in the base game. Even with Observer's super looting sword, not a single bit of sand here. Myth busted. Destroying a pillager outpost prevents mobs from spawning. So let's see if we get rid of all of this pillager outpost, if you wouldn't mind helping me out with some TNT here, Observer. Will that stop any of these pillagers from spawning around it? That should be good. Certainly got rid of the pillagers that were near it. So we'll get rid of all the pillagers that are currently here, and then if we speed through time, we'll be able to see if any more spawn. And as you can surely see, they keep spawning in the outskirts around. So it's not necessarily to do with the pillager outpost itself, but to do with the area that's defined around the pillager outpost. So, myth busted. This myth says that pillagers can't wear armor. We got a pillager here that doesn't have armor set into its inventory, and this command block sets up a pillager that's wearing full netherite. So let's see, how long would it take for me to kill each one? So this is the no armor one. 1, 2, 3. And here's our one wearing netherite armor. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 hits. So the armor definitely works, and we could even see as much if we were to give some kind of thorns. You would actually see that it works properly. Myth busted. So what we're testing here is that guardians deal projectile damage, which would mean that if we equipped projectile protection, we should be safer from them. Well, let's find out. So I've got my armor here with projectile protection. I take 3 hearts, switch over to protection, and I just take 1. So it doesn't actually benefit you to use projectile protection in this way. Instead, regular protection is going to work just fine, because this is considered as magic damage, where the beam will bypass armor points entirely, and it only gets reduced by resistance potion effects or the regular protection enchantment. It's possible to get a pillager's crossbow to break after a certain amount of uses, but can the same be said about a skeleton? Well, by the looks of it, my shield's going to break first. And if we were to go and check in, the skeleton's bow that it's given is given at damage 383, so it should have broken by this point. So if we were to give ourselves that same bow that it's using, it only could do 1 shot before it's broken. I take my 1 arrow, point it towards this guy, immediately breaks. The skeleton's not the same. Myth busted. An Enderman will not attack you when you look at it from a tower of scaffolding. This Enderman will not reach me up here. It does not climb the scaffolding, the same way that it would if we had a ladder here. Will it attack me when I'm inside of it? Hold on. So it will still attack me, but if I start scaling up, the Enderman won't scale up with me. So the Tower of Scaffolding completely negates this Enderman from attacking me. Myth confirmed. So this one says that if we summon in an Enderman, get it angry, and then apply a carved pumpkin, it won't stay angry at me. Which unfortunately for me, I'm not only dying, but I'm dying in the stupidest way possible. Granted, I can't anger it when I'm wearing it, but if I go and apply this here, the job's already been done. So attach your carved pumpkin as a preventative measure and not as something after the fact. So myth confirmed. But what if we were to take our Enderman and make it wear the carved pumpkin? So we've got an Enderman here that's wearing a carved pumpkin in its secret inventory, even though you can't see it. So if I look at it, is it gonna get mad at me? Sure enough. Let's maybe move to the next section before I glance my eyes off this Enderman. Myth busted. A magma cube can bounce on slime. Let's find out. Set up my slime into position and then place a magma cube over top of it. Will it bounce on the slime block? Nope. Slime entities themselves just aren't actually bouncy. What we're actually seeing here is that it's bouncing off of the blocks underneath it enough to look like it's bouncing, but it's not actually bouncing with the mob. So myth busted. This says that a zombified piglin in the Nether has the ability to spawn regular zombies. I go and apply my kit here, and then set the reinforcement attribute for the zombie pigments to the max. Now, if I were to go and attack these zombie pigments, will they summon in any kind of zombie? Every time that they take damage, they'll attempt to spawn more. So let's see. So far, no regular zombies. We'll try damaging them a little bit more. Huh. So look at that. Ever since snapshot 24W33A for the 1.21.2 version of the game, it was made so that any non-zombie undead mob wouldn't go and summon reinforcements for regular zombies. So our husks, our drowned, our zombified piglins, even zombie villagers, they don't summon in as reinforcements regular zombies. Myth busted. This myth says that if we take a blaze and give it water breathing potion, then it'll become immune to water damage. We got our blaze, it's got water breathing on it, and by the looks of it, it might be breathing in the water, but it won't be breathing for long. And we could even see this if I were to go and take some more splash potions of water breathing. Definitely has the effect, but with those regular splash water bottles that observer's throwing down, it will still take damage, and increased damage at that. Myth busted. So the Enderman sound clips that we hear are actually English in reverse. So let's see. We got our Enderman here, and we can listen into it. So there are some lines that do sound like they're saying something, like there just said like it sounded, "What's up?" And while this is stated as an official bit of text that happens in the loading text for Bedrock Edition, according to a Mojang Says video, the developers themselves actually contradict this idea.
I don't think they're speaking English backwards and not that easy.
So it could just be speculation, but what I will say is that myth busted. So what we're seeing here is a myth that the fossils that we find inside of the Nether are actually the remains of sniffers, which I gotta say, for this to be true, they would have to be a whole lot bigger as sniffers. And considering the biggest we've ever seen a sniffer get is about this size, I wouldn't say that it has any relation, especially since there's no other ties to the sniffer inside of the Nether. However, the fossils that we find in the overworld, maybe there's an argument there, but the ones that we're seeing in the Soul Sand Valley, I think especially because there's dried Ghasts that we're seeing next to them, there's much more likelihood that it has something to do with the Ghasts as opposed to our sniffer friends. Myth busted. This myth says that wither skeletons are immune to wither roses. Sure enough. And if we were to get a regular skeleton down, we'll see just that. A regular skeleton takes the effect, but the wither skeleton, not only is it immune to wither roses, it's just immune to the wither effect in general. Myth confirmed. So this myth is that a shulker is immune to fall damage. Well, let's find out. Now, if I were to go and summon a shulker up here, it'll always teleport down. You can't summon it midair. So is it immune to fall damage? Sure, but it's never actually falling. Even with commands, it just doesn't work. It'll give you the command feedback, target is invulnerable to the given damage type. And if we were to do the same with a sheep, there you go. So, myth confirmed. This myth says that a piglin will dance if it kills any mob besides a hoglin. So we've got our piglin. We're gonna get it aggro towards this chicken. Well, no dance, no fanfare, but it is a rare chance. Let's summon in a few more chickens. But sure enough, it's only coded so that they do this after a successful hoglin hunt. So, myth busted. So this myth says that given enough time and enough endermen, they will grief your base. Well, let's see. So if you were to have a base kind of like this, where it's half made out of natural blocks and half made out of stone, the endermen would grief the other parts that we're seeing here with the dirt and the rooted dirt. But the truth is that they can't pick up stone by design. So no matter how much time you give them or how many endermen you have, they could never fully break this unless you change something in the code. So myth partially busted. If you have a dirt house, it's not looking great for you. This one says that piglins can pick up non-gold armor and weapons. So if we have our piglin here and I were to give it down some diamond options, will it pick these up instead? Sure enough, we got a diamond wearing piglin. But as soon as I throw down a gold item, it'll always prefer to wear the gold instead of the diamond. To them, it's all about the bling, regardless of if it's a worse armor choice. Myth confirmed. This myth says that happy Ghast, if given enough time, will fly away forever if left untethered. Well, we could tick sprint and try to see if this is true or not. So while it does fly outside of our base's range, the truth is that the happy Ghast always stays within a 64 block radius if it doesn't have a harness, and that gets trimmed down if it does. So no matter how far away I get from the observatory, it's always going to stay somewhere around where we're keeping our base to. The way that the happy Ghast determines its home is that it'll be depending on where you last unattached a lead, dismounted it, equipped or removed its harness, no longer tempted it with a tempting item like a snowball or a harness, or if it stopped following a mob. So basically the last time you interacted with it, that's going to be the area that it remembers to stay active in. Myth busted. The myth we're testing is that pigs will only eat carrots. Well, while they're definitely associated with carrots, if I were to try any of these other items like potatoes, they'll surely work, and beetroots as well also work for the pigs. So any of these 3 food items do just the trick. And in fact, I believe it's golden carrots that they don't care anything about. So, myth busted. While riding a camel, it'll make you immune to any kind of melee damage. If I go into survival and I have this husk down here, I am safe to this melee damage. But that's only true given where the husk relative is. So as soon as it steps up, it is able to hit me. It just needs a footstool before it's able to do anything. But as long as you're staying to the flat desert down here, you are pretty safe on the camel. Oh, but an enderman is tall enough to kill you on top of the camel. So partially confirmed, but not totally. This one says that a wolf in wolf armor can take any amount of damage and still survive. So let's see if I take my mace and I go up and get a nice big leap. Our wolf is still fine. The way that it's coded is that a wolf will take any amount of damage up until the point of breaking the armor, and it won't actually touch its health bar. So even using strength to the maximum level, our wolf is still alive. Whereas something like a warden punched the same, dies in 1 hit. So a wolf basically has 2 sets of life bars, which is odd. I thought it was cats that had multiple lives. Is that true with magic damage? No. So this one would be partially true. This one says that if we have a wolf and we have a happy Ghast, our wolf will kill the happy Ghast. So let me see. I got my happy Ghast here. Will it go and just attack the happy Ghast as is? My wolf will come towards me, but it will ignore the happy Ghast up until the point that I punch it. But that's true for any passive mob. Can a wolf kill a happy Ghast? It's true, but I wouldn't say it's true in any kind of interesting way. And untamed ones, they completely ignore it. We'll give it a partial confirm. This myth says that if we have an untamed wolf and a tamed wolf, we can't breed the 2 together. So I'll tame one of these up. There's our domesticated wolf. But if I take my pork chop and breed them up, sure enough, you can't breed an untamed wolf with a tamed wolf, even though both are now in love mode. There you go, myth confirmed. To get the chicken jockey music disc, you can't kill the chicken first. If I were to go and slay the chicken and then kill the zombie, no chicken jockey music disc. But the same setup where I kill the zombie first, sure enough, that's the only way to get the chicken jockey music disc, which makes sense, because otherwise when you kill off the chicken first, it's just a baby zombie, not a chicken jockey. Myth confirmed. All right, so last time we had a bunch of chickens attach to leads, and we try to make a chicken parachute. We said in the last video that myth was busted, but someone said that if we give them slow falling first, then it would work. We'll take all of our chicken, look at all those chickens, get them on a couple of leads. There we go. And then if I give them slow falling, now will this save us from the fall? Let's find out. I mean, kind of, but it's misleading. Because what's actually happening here is that the slow falling saving me from the fall, and not the chickens themselves. And if I were to clear the same effect and try this again, and then if I fall like this, not only does that not save me, but it also keeps the chickens up there in the middle of the air. So all that does is break a couple of leads and my spine. Myth busted. All right, so this is a fox that trusts me. And you can see that because it's not running away from me when I get close. So if I were to get attacked by a mob like a husk, will the fox go after it with the sword? Well, I'd hope so. I bought it for it. Hey, sure enough. So even though foxes can't be tamed in the same sense that wolves can, it will go after the husk like so. And mobs that they would normally attack, like chickens, they'll go after just the same anyway. They'll even prioritize it over this mob that's about to hit me. Thanks. So, myth confirmed. This one states that pandas are completely passive mobs. Well, let's see. I've got my panda here. It seems pretty passive. Let's give it a punch. Whoa! Not only is it not passive, it's a neutral mob that can do 4.5 hearts of health, but it only does 1 punch to retaliate against me. It all has to do with the specific panda variant that we find. And it would be this panda here, the angry panda, that actually would have a chance of going against us. So is this one just straight up hostile? Doesn't look like it, but if I attack it first, ow! Does it keep attacking you after you hit it though? Sure enough, so the aggressive one will keep attacking you once it's provoked, whereas other variants of the panda might give up after a certain amount of time. But even fully aggressive, it's still a neutral mob. So, myth busted. This one states that bees are doomed to die after they sting you. Well, that would be based on real life, so let's see. So if I get stung by this bee, not only does it sting me, but it also loses its stinger in the process. If you look at this bee, it now has no stinger on its butt anymore. Now I know I'm not doing so great. How does the bee fare? Well, so far so fine. Ah, there it goes. Myth confirmed. This one states that dolphins, even though they are aquatic mobs, require a mix of both air and water to survive. If I were to give this a ceiling, and then we tick sprint, even though it's fully given all of the water that it can need, eventually the dolphin will die from not having enough air. Sure enough. But we do that same test and we remove the lid, the dolphin will be fine. Myth confirmed. This one says that sheep can only graze on grass blocks. So if we shear off the wool off the sheep, it'll only get it back if it was next to grass, but as we can see there, that's just not the case, considering it is able to eat actual grass items that generates on top of blocks like the short grass that we have here. So it ate the short dry grass to regain its wool. The issue being though is that it does remove it in the process, so it's not a permanent solution the same way that our grass might be renewable, but it does work. Myth busted. This one states that Iron Golem will give a baby villager a poppy on rare occasions. Now this has definitely been in the game, and the truth is that it still is, but you're not going to see it on Java anymore. So as we can see here, the golem does still offer out the poppy. It's just that due to a bug, it won't actually have the baby villager accept it anymore. So myth busted. This one says that Allays do not dance to the broken music disc like they do to other ones. Let's find out. Oh, sure enough, not only are they dancing to it, but they seem to love it. They love it a lot more than I do, I'll tell you that much. Myth busted. In Bedrock Edition, the Allays can blink, but this one says the Java Edition doesn't. Pretty awkward staring contest, and it'll be extremely awkward because they do not blink in Java. They also said the Allays can blink in Bedrock, but after hours of studying it, it's just not so. Though there are resource packs over there that allow this to happen, but otherwise it's just the players that's blinking. So I guess that means myth double busted. This one states that a snow golem inside of a desert biome given fire resistance will actually survive. Well, that one didn't last very long. Let's try the fire resistance. Hey, sure enough. So as long as it has fire resistance, it'll actually survive inside of the desert biome. And actually, myth's so confirmed that if we were to go over into the Nether, it's also true that our snow golems will survive there. Myth confirmed. Our villager breeders are made using farmer villagers. So this myth says that farmer villagers are required for villager breeding. Well, let's find out. We're about to have 2 librarians. Can they link up over shared interest? And sure enough, we're seeing villager love hearts come up because you're able to breed between any kind of villager profession. So farmer villagers are required. However, they are required for automatic breeders, since they would be able to go harvest all of the crops themselves and then give that to other villagers, giving you an automatic breeder. But as long as you offer the food yourself, it's just fine without. Myth busted. So this myth says that if we have an iron golem that's broken up, but we usually could repair it with iron ingots, this one says that we can repair it even faster using iron blocks. But But no matter how hard I'm right-clicking on this, I cannot interact with it using iron blocks. And in fact, the quickest way to repair your iron golem with iron blocks would be that you just build a new iron golem. But as far as what this is saying, myth busted. This myth states that swamp villagers have a guaranteed mending book enchantment. So we've got our swamp villager. It's now a swamp librarian. If I go and trade with it, Curse of Binding. Not only is there no mending for it, but there's really no difference between the different biome types of villagers. And the reason that this myth might exist is that there's currently experimental snapshots that are out that would make these changes, but they're not in the base game. So if you're going and taking all the effort to breed your villagers inside of the swamp to even get this rare variant, it's not going to make a difference for you. Myth busted. If we have a villager and a bed, it can sleep in any dimension. So as soon as I set it over to night, there's no night sky over here in the Nether. However, the villagers are able to sleep just fine. The bed doesn't even explode. And if that's true for the Nether, let's see it in the end. We got this villager's house on location, set it to night, and sure enough, it's able to sleep here, even if we can't. Myth confirmed. This myth states that you're able to milk squids. All right, let's give it a shot. If I take my bucket and try to milk the squid, it doesn't work. However, it did used to work because this was added during beta 1.2. You were able to milk the squids for a regular milk bucket, but it was then removed back in beta 1.301. So if the myth is that you used to be able to milk squids, then that is confirmed, regardless of how much I wish it wasn't. And with that, folks, YouTube thinks that you might like this video. So see if they're right and have a good one. All right.